Welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating sociological and philosophical puzzle about human behavior. Have you ever wondered why certain groups seem incredibly unified, while others, even with really strong, capable individuals, just can't seem to get on the same page? Well, the source material we're diving into today presents a striking paradox. It explores the connection between being misguided and finding unity versus being on the path of truth and experiencing division. It's a deep dive into the true nature of weakness and strength, and honestly, it completely flips our standard understanding of power totally upside down. So let's get right into it.
Imagine a quick thought experiment with me. Picture a group of incredibly weak, vulnerable people. They're stuck in a harsh environment, and deep down, they know they literally cannot survive on their own. Even if they don't particularly love each other, sheer necessity forces them to cling together. They unite, right? They form this tight-knit block simply to stay alive. Okay, now flip the script. Imagine a group of highly confident, self-reliant, powerful individuals. Because they feel so totally secure in their own individual strength, they don't feel that same burning, desperate need to compromise or cling to the person next to them. And as a result, they often fail to unite. They fracture and divide. This exact dynamic is at the heart of our core question today. Why does weakness so often act as a social glue, while strength acts as a wedge?
To answer that, we turn to Section 1, Bediüzzaman's second reason. Okay, let's dive into this juxtaposition from the text. On one hand, we have the people of misguidance, or those on the wrong path, which the text closely associates with zillet. That's a state of weakness, abasement, or vulnerability. On the other hand, we have the people of truth, the righteous, who are associated with izzet, which translates to inherent strength, honor, and dignity. What the text is doing here is fundamentally redefining how we diagnose a group's health. Normally, we look at a unified group and think, wow, they must be so strong and confident. But Bediüzzaman argues the exact opposite. He posits that the intense unity seen among those on the wrong path is actually a symptom of their profound internal weakness. Meanwhile, the unfortunate disunity often seen among those on the right path is a byproduct, albeit a flawed application, of their inherent inner strength and self-reliance.
And that brings us to our central thesis. I really want you to let this sink in for a second. Unity on the wrong path equals weakness. Disunity on the right path equals strength. I know it's highly counterintuitive. In our modern world, we're constantly told that teamwork and unity are the absolute ultimate signs of a strong, healthy movement. But the text asks us to look beneath the surface. If you're on a misguided path, your unity isn't born from a noble, shared higher purpose, it's born from fear. It's a defense mechanism. Conversely, if you possess the truth, you feel a sense of inherent power and dignity. The tragic irony here is that this very strength can actually make you complacent. You just don't feel the desperate need to cling to your peers, which ultimately leads to division. It is a really brilliant, profound observation about human nature.
This brings us to Section 2, the necessity of weakness, where we explore exactly why the misguided are practically forced to unite.
The text gives us three core reasons for this desperate unity. First up, a focus only on worldly goals. Look, when your entire existence and purpose are tied to the material world, which, let's face it, is fleeting, hyper-competitive, and unstable, you are inherently insecure. You need allies just to protect your slice of the pie. Second is a lack of reliance on ultimate truth. When you don't have a higher, unshakable truth to lean on, you basically have nothing to support your soul. You're walking on thin ice, and you know it. And that leads directly to the third point, inner desperation. Because these groups lack that vertical support from a higher truth, they're internally weak and utterly helpless on their own. So they're practically forced to reach out horizontally, grabbing onto literally anyone next to them. They cling to one another tightly and fiercely because without the group, they have absolutely nothing. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the text acknowledges a hard, practical reality of the world. This flawed, desperate inner solidarity actually yields results. It works. The universe operates on certain laws, and one of them is that unified effort produces tangible outcomes. Even if the cause is completely wrong, even if the entire foundation is built on misguidance and inner desperation, the sheer mechanics of their solidarity will still bear fruit. But the text makes it crystal clear that we shouldn't be fooled by their success into thinking their cause is right. Their success isn't a validation of their path. It's simply the natural byproduct of their desperate, necessity-driven unity.
So how do we spot this in the real world? Let's move to Section 3, outer appearance versus inner weakness.
This concept brilliantly illustrates the core dynamic at play, showing us a fascinating inverse relationship. A group's formidable outer solidarity might actually be a giant, flashing neon sign pointing directly to their inner weakness and lack of self-confidence. The text uses a fantastic metaphor for this. Think of a physical body. A strong, healthy body can stand on its own 2 feet, right? It doesn't need to lean on walls, and it certainly doesn't need crutches. But a weak, sickly, or frail body constantly demands external support. It literally has to lean on something or someone just to stay upright. Well, a community lacking self-confidence operates in the exact same way. Their loud, overwhelming solidarity isn't a flex of their muscles, it's a crutch. They demand total conformity and tight-knit external support because, internally, they just lack the strength to stand alone on their principles.
To finally resolve this paradox, we turn to Section 4, True Honor and Power, where we explore the ultimate source of strength. The crucial takeaway is captured beautifully in this verse from the Quran. Honor, power, and glory belong entirely to Allah. This is exactly where the text anchors its entire philosophy. True is it that real, unshakable strength, honor, and self-confidence we talked about earlier cannot be manufactured by a group of desperate people clinging together for material gain. It doesn't come from worldly alliances, and it certainly doesn't come from the sheer numbers of a misguided crowd. Real power originates from a connection to the divine. When an individual or a group relies on this ultimate truth, they possess a quiet, inherent strength. They don't need to loudly perform their solidarity out of fear. The big lesson here is to stop being intimidated by the loud, unified fronts of those focused purely on worldly gains, and to recognize that true, lasting power is quiet, confident, and rooted deeply in a higher truth.
I want to leave you with a question to ponder as we wrap up our explainer today. Have you ever noticed a group looking strong on the outside, but held together by a weak inner need? Look at the world around you. Look at history, modern social dynamics, or even the cliques in your own workplace or community. Have you ever noticed a group that projects an image of absolute, impenetrable strength, but when you look a little closer, you realize they're only held together by fear, insecurity, and a deeply weak inner need? The next time you see a loud, unified crowd, ask yourself, is this the unity of the strong or the desperate clinging of the weak? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this truly thought-provoking text. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and I really hope this fresh perspective helps you decode the social dynamics in your own life.